Hi, welcome to Bourne Calling. I'm Skip Barlow, and today's May 5th. May 5th already, 2021. Wow. And tonight, we've got a special guest tonight. We've got a woman who's been involved with town government for almost 2 decades. And she's very special. And without further ado, I'd like to introduce Mary Jane Mastrangelo and give her an opportunity to give us a little background on your history in the town.
Thanks, Skip. Thanks for having me. So I don't know if a lot of people know this, but I've been coming to Bourne summers since 1963 when I was 12 years old. And my family, my parents started a business here in the 70s. They owned Bourne Sports World on MacArthur Boulevard, which was the driving range for the bumper cars and the dairy. And they ran that for 25 years, and a lot of my brothers and sisters worked there, so it was a great part of the community. When they retired, they sold the business, and they moved to Florida, and they sold their house, and I bought the lot next door and built a house myself in 1998 to come first as a summer resident, and then in 2003 we moved here full-time. So I've been here full-time Bourne resident since then. I really love the town. I think it's a really special place and has a lot of really special things about it and special people.
Yeah, I don't know anybody who didn't go to the go-kart track at that time. I
Well,
really
not
don't.
the go-kart. So the go-kart was separate
Yeah, but you
from
went-
Sports World,
yeah,
but it was the
right
driving
there.
range,
Yeah.
but it was all together. So everybody did both things. I mean,
I
it was,
agree, but I
you
mean,
know,
everybody
it was
rode the
great,
go-kart.
great summer fun, and we all miss it, I think.
Yeah, and that's, it's funny, that piece of land is still sitting there, and it's almost vacant, and then the marijuana business, I guess, is next door. I don't know what ever happened with that, but that's next door.
Yeah.
And wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you've been involved and been here in this community for that long, because you probably have a lot more history than most people realize.
Well, I do, and I remember coming here summers in the beach where we were. It was so different than, it was all eelgrass and starfish and pufferfish, and so much of that has changed.
Was that
you know,
on
because-
Scraggy Dyke in that area there?
Yeah, the little Sunrise
Boulder
Beach.
Road, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful area. I agree, it's changed so much, especially in the last 15 years.
Right, right.
And there's a lot of different theories about why it's changed, but it has changed. And because I'm a shell fisherman, so I go to that particular place almost every year, because when there's grass beds there,
Right.
there's scallops there. And a
Yes.
couple of years ago there were scallops in there, but not so much this year.
Right.
This year was and next year doesn't look too good. And it's kind of it's nothing to do with you.
No, but I know my
Yeah.
brothers would,
Yeah.
they would snorkel for eels in the eelgrass. I mean, it
Yeah.
was very different, and so that water quality issue is something that we all really have to pay attention to.
Yeah, it is.
Because it's really important, and it's really important to the people in Bourne. When you talk to people, water quality, Pecasset,
Yeah.
Potomac,
I can't-
everywhere.
Yeah, you can't hardly talk to anybody who says they don't care about that.
Right.
Because we all do.
It's the main
Because
thing.
it
Yeah.
impacts the town significantly.
It does.
But I don't want to get stuck on that.
Okay, so when I came to town, I had been in my prior community. I'd been on the school committee, and I wanted to get involved in town, and I really felt that I wanted to be on the finance committee. So that's where I started. Eleanor Ripley recruited me after I went to a couple finance committee meetings, and I've been on the finance committee for 15 years. I've been chair of the committee for the last 5. As part of that, I've also been on the Capital Outlay Committee, on the Wastewater Advisory Committee. I'm chair of the Wastewater Facility Building Committee. I really love being involved in town, and I love volunteering and giving to the town. It gives me a lot of joy.
Yeah, I can remember. I've been involved off and on in different things since the 70s. So just like yourself, it becomes part of your life. And it really does become part of your life. Sometimes it's good times and sometimes it's rough times, but it becomes part of your life. And I've seen you I saw you. I can remember when you first came on the finance committee. I can remember when you came to Capital Outlay, and I remember Eleanor Ripley. Eleanor Ripley would come to the meetings. Eleanor Ripley she had been on the finance committee for years, and she was
Yes.
a really well-schooled woman, very knowledgeable, and she would come and help us and guide us, because I was on the Capital Outlay, didn't have a clue. I really didn't. I was not, I just didn't understand a lot of things, and I would try to work with the department heads to get the things that they needed, and that was pretty much what I did. And when you became the chairman, it became so much more, and I was impressed because
Well, so we started, when I became chair, we started with going on tours of the buildings. We had the Cecil report done that gave us condition assessments of the different buildings, so we could prioritize what needed to be done. That was the time when we started with DPW getting fixed. We looked at, the police station, we looked at the Peebles School, and we made a plan to sort of start chipping away at the things that had to be done. We started with questionnaires for the department heads to give us sort of this information in a consistent format so that we could review things.
Yeah, I think you did things that had never been done before. And I'm not faulting anybody. It was just a different way of doing things. And the way the capital had been before you got there was department heads would decide what they really thought they needed, and they would bring it to the capital committee, and it had to be within a certain price range, and it had to be, it wasn't stuff that you would, it wasn't extra stuff. It was always replacing stuff. It wasn't, what do you need and what do you have to have? And usually they got what they had to have, and need was kind of a wish list, and it turned around, and it really didn't cost anybody. But all of a sudden there was a plan for police cruisers and things like that.
Right. We also started working with the CPA funds. So in projects like the Monument Beach boat ramp,
Yeah.
that was funded partially by the town's general fund, but it was funded also by CPA. And so we started working with CPA to say, what things can CPA help us with that will help the town? And so we've done a lot of things that way too.
Yeah, the CPA especially, that's something with the historic, because I'm with the historic group,
Right.
we do get stuff from the CPA, and it really is important to the town, I think, because a lot of these things that get preserved really need to be preserved, like the stuff at Aptuxet or
Right.
the historic center. And
Or
there's a whole
the
bunch of
roofs,
things.
or
The
doing things
roofs.
like the roof at
At
the
Swiss Memorial
Archives
Church.
building, or all those things. You need to maintain those it's
I
not
know.
maintenance, but you need to keep them
You
in
need
a
to
way that you
preserve them.
protect them.
If you don't
Yes.
preserve them, you won't have them.
Right,
And some of these buildings we've had for 100 years. And actually the Aptuxet Trading Post, it's just about 100 years now. And it sits on the original foundation. So, it just happens to be that 100th anniversary thing with them. And so I wasn't, other buildings too. The Historic Center is over 100 years. Town Hall, 1914, over 100 years. And Town Hall needs some work, as you know.
yes, and we've done,
I know.
we did the windows, and we
yeah.
went to the historic, commission to talk about what kind of windows and how they should be done to maintain the historic look of the building.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those things are so important to.
They are, and plus the new things that, the parks, the CPA has got like canal access. There's canal access on this side of the canal through what used to be called the Lions property. Now it's Canal
Right.
Crossroads or something. It's not Crossroads, I can't remember the name of it, and I was just there yesterday. But really,
okay.
there's no place else on this side of the bridge other than going to Bell Road that the town has access, and that's an access to the canal for the people. And it works out really well. There's seats there, and it's a nice access area.
Right, and the other property that they got across from the lobster trap is a really nice, that marshland property too.
Yeah, that's,
So those we've been able to do a lot for the town with those.
yeah,
with the
and
CPA
it's
funds.
funny, people our age don't realize this, but our kids and our grandchildren, they're gonna realize there's about 400 or 500 people in this town who really work hard to keep this town moving forward and try to save it. There really is, and I'm sure that if you think about it, I'm probably pretty close on the numbers. It's just different groups. It's not any specific group that all try to pull together to move things in the same direction, and they're positive people. And I think you're one of them.
Well, people working together is what makes things happen. I mean,
Yeah,
when people really care about an issue, we'll take the bike path people. So the bike path people really want to have a bike path that goes from the canal down to North Falmouth and then connects out. And so they've started working very slowly, looked for grant funding, looked for CPA funding, have been using the Mass Dot programs that encourage bike paths, that encourage this kind of recreation. And so they've got significant funding that they're on the TIP, which is the Transportation Improvement Plan, for funding the first phase, and I think it was just moved to 2025. And then also, they've talked about funding the Phase 4 plan, which is from Katomet down to North Falmouth, and that's on the plan too. And those are big projects, $2 million project, $10 million project, or $8 million project. So having that state funding and getting that state funding and staying on top of that state funding, participating in the regional meetings to keep that funding going is going to be really important.
and I agree. And, you know, it's really funny. Back in the late 60s, early 70s, that's when they first had boat trailers. They didn't have boat trailers before that. Nobody had boat trailers except the big boat haulers. So there weren't paved ramps in town. Everybody had a dirt ramp, and everybody would get stuck. And, you know, if you did have a trailer, and even the commercial fishermen wouldn't haul their boats. They'd keep them at near the places to back down to get their shellfish. And at that time, people said, "Oh, well, we got to put in boat ramps." And the first perception was, "Oh, it's for the commercial fishermen." But there was money available through the Shore Harbor Committee, and they started putting in these boat ramps. And all of a sudden, somebody said, "Well, geez, we need a marina." So then, that marina thing started in about '65. It took a long time to get it built, and what they started out building is so much different from what they
Right.
actually wanted to build. But now, boat ramps are golden.
Yeah.
I mean, but at that time, people didn't realize how important they would be in the future. And so the money was spent then, you know, begrudgingly, but it was spent. But now, it's a huge benefit to the town. And that's how we get these things. And if we build a bike path now that maybe people, you know, aren't as comfortable with, and they're not thinking it's the great thing, they should go ride that one from Katomet all the way to Falmouth. Because
Right.
it's a pretty great thing, and it
It
draws
is.
a tremendous amount of people.
It does.
It
I mean,
does.
people love the bike paths.
But
I mean,
50 years from now, it's going to be important.
Right. The preserving land now is so important, preserving open space, because if you don't preserve it now, you're not going to have it in the future.
Yeah.
So anytime that you can get that land and keep it for open space or for future municipal purposes, it's just really, really important.
Yeah, I agree. And, you know, it's, you know, it was one of those things that even, I don't think people realize now, you know, because a lot of people, and you may do it too, but people go to work, you know, their whole life is, I got to get up, I got to get early, take a shower, get dressed, go to work. They get home, they just want to have supper, they want to relax, watch TV. And then their life is the same thing again tomorrow. And they have no idea that, you know, and nobody's ever happy with their tax bill. I don't like mine, but I get it and I pay it. But nobody, I don't care where you live, nobody's ever happy with their tax bill. And but when you get older, and when you're a kid growing up too, when the kid has the access to these things, it's great. And when you get older and you look around and say, "Wow, this town's a pretty good town."
We have so much.
I mean,
the
it is.
canal is such a gem. I mean, there's so having that canal, the walking paths on and the bike paths on either side of the canal. It's just, we have tremendous resources in this town.
I love this town. Of course, you wouldn't guess that, right?
Yeah.
But it's true, and I know you do too. And that's so important. It's so important to actually have experienced this town. It really is. And, you know, tell us more.
So I think we're really lucky in that we have some really dedicated people in this town. We have had citizen advisory groups where people who care about a topic get involved and they want to have a voice and they want to help solve problems and make things better. And so we've had building committees for the schools and for the police facility, for the wastewater facility. We used to have the wastewater advisory committee, which was, I think, one of the favorite committees that I was on, because it was a cross section of people that could bounce ideas off each other to come up with better solutions. So the wastewater advisory committee had member of the finance committee, member of the planning board, member of the board of health. Terry Garino was on it from the board as a staff from the board of health. Had someone was a residential sewer user, a business sewer user, someone from the board of sewer commissioners, and all these people worked together to talk about things that needed to be done, concerns about wastewater or how to help. We worked on the sewer allocation policy, because when we got to the point where there wasn't sewer usage to be able to give out and we had to have a moratorium, we needed to talk about how that should be how that should be given out. Should we charge for it? How much should we charge for it? How can businesses that are going to profit from the new wastewater facility help contribute to the cost through sewer allocation funds? That was a great committee. The Transportation Advisory Committee, another great committee, that worked on the Adams Street. They talked about different transportation issues, and it was bringing people together, Maria Leva and the police chief, and I'm not even sure who else was on that committee. I think maybe Tom Care. So when you get people together working on things that they care about that are going to help the town, that's really, really important.
Yeah, but it's funny, you said Marie. Marie was the first woman selectman in town years ago.
Yes.
She really was. And most selectmen, once they're done, they're done. It's a tough job. It really is. And most people, when they're done, they're done. But Marie is never going to be done. Marie has stayed in there time and time and time and time again. And she when she gets involved in something, she's really dedicated to it. She gets behind it. She's really dedicated to it. You're not going to get her off it. And I see a lot of that in you too. But
well, she's really done so much for the businesses in town. I mean, being in the chamber, and she's very dedicated to it. She does so much to support the businesses and to help the businesses and provide programs that help businesses, and to get conversations going between businesses and the town, and how can we make things better, and what do we need to do. And those conversations are so important. Getting people involved is really, really important.
It's everywhere in government to, and that, it's a good attitude to have. It's really difficult in government when boards don't work together. If they don't, in the olden days, I hate to say olden days, but in the olden days, they did. And, people interacted with each other, and it was okay. And people weren't screaming, there's open meeting law violation, or there's this, or there's that, or the other. It's crazy now. People need to work together. They really do.
Yes, they do. And let's take the comprehensive wastewater management plan that we're just embarking on. That plan, which is going to take several years to go through to decide what are the best options for wastewater treatment in the town of Bourne, is going to require so much collaboration. And it's not just the Board of Sewer Commissioners that's going to be involved, because sewer commissioners are really only about sewers. The Board of Health is septic systems and packaged treatment plants and a lot of the other options that are available and need to be considered and need to be looked at in terms of cost effectiveness. So in this comprehensive plan development, we need people from different areas of town. We need the Pecassid people who've been concerned and talking about their water quality. We need the Sagamore people. We need the Gray Gables people and the Buzzards Bay people and the Catawba people. We need everybody to come together and understand what the problems are, to be able to talk about things that are important to them in their location, and then to involve the Board of Health and the Board of Sewer Commissioners and the Board of Selectmen and the Capital Outlay Committee and the Finance Committee and the Planning Board, everybody working together to figure out what is the best way for us
Yeah.
to solve this problem.
And you know what's funny, and people don't see it, the Concom, the Shore Harbor Committee,
Yes.
these are groups that do unbelievable positive things for the environment in town, especially the Shore Harbor Committee and the
Yes.
Concom. They work together. They get these dredging projects aren't just for navigation. Dredging projects that keep our bays and harbors flushing out, keep them
Yes,
clean.
yes,
And these guys, they're all volunteers. They're all volunteers, just like the guys on the Board of Health too. And they have to work together. And there's no thank you to the Shore and Harbor Committee or the Concom or these groups that, there isn't. They're kind of put on the back burner, but they get these things done.
They
Look
do.
at our marinas. Wow.
yes. And our marinas are gems. I mean,
They
we
are.
had a boat in the Monument Beach Marina for a number of years, and it's
Yeah.
a great facility to have in town. Taylor's Point Marina, great facility to have
Yeah.
in town.
It's all of them are actually. We've got private marinas in town. We've got some pretty good stuff in town. We really do, and it's really thanks to a lot of groups working together. Not only the stuff the town owns, but these groups also work with the business owners to keep their areas not dredged so that people can navigate, but so they flush out, so that it's a desirable place to be. It is. It makes it desirable when you've got a nice, clean. You can jump off your boat and go swimming, and you come out and you don't feel dirty than when you jumped in.
One of the things that we started working on, and it's been a couple of years now, I want to say, because John Nelson was still here as facilities manager,
Mhm.
was a comprehensive municipal harbor plan and dredging plan, so that instead of having to go re-permit every single time, that it's a comprehensive 10-year permit that allows you to dredge what you need without going through a lot of paperwork every time. And so that was a couple of years, I want to say 2015, we allocated about $60,000 to get that planning done, so that it would all work better. It would all be permitted better and save time and effort, and we could do those things.
Yeah, now, here was another guy that they brought into town, hired him. He's a graduate of Mass Maritime. That's where he became a facilities manager from. Excellent job. He really did. And he worked together with a lot of different people. I worked with him because I was on the Board of Governors of the Historic Center, and I would work with him on issues there, what could get fixed, what couldn't get fixed.
Right,
And he covered, he was when the community building got flooded, when the pipes froze. He was in there all the time, on his phone, getting it fixed. He was. And then, of course, the second time when it froze, he wasn't here anymore. He was in
Right.
Sandwich. But the first time, we got it back a lot quicker.
well, and I'm really glad that in our budget for fiscal year '23, we are bringing that position back for a facilities director for the town, because that's so important. We have
Yeah.
millions and millions of dollars of facilities in the town.
Well, the fella now is really good. That is the facilities guy. He works for
Right.
the DPW, works under Sean, I believe, Sean Patterson now.
Right,
He was under George, but he really is good. And we had another man in the middle, Steve, and I can't remember his last name, but he was really good too.
Good
But
also.
John kind of started it.
right.
He initiated it and started it
He was our first, and so he had to do some groundbreaking.
a lot.
But there were a lot of things that he did, the solar farm that we bought into as a town, so for the electricity, they pooled all the electricity, so that instead of each department, being in charge of its electricity, we have the shared electricity cost, which is about $1.3 million, I want to say, the cost of electricity for all the schools,
Yeah.
all the town buildings. But because we got into a solar program, we get revenue of $700,000. So the net cost to the town for electricity is much less. And he was a big part of us getting that contract done, which saved the town a lot of money.
Yeah, it's funny. This is a school. The studio's in the school, but the studio also has money that comes from Comcast. And one of the big upgrades was to put in all LED lighting. It doesn't give us any heat, but it is so much more reasonable. You know, it really is. And, you know, things change and you got to roll with it. And you get people like John Nelson who start these things. And, you know, even though he left and even though he had left and gone to Sandwich, if I had an issue at the Historic Center, I could call him and he would tell me what to do,
Right.
which is huge. He didn't have to do that. You know, when you get people that are dedicated to the community, it's so nice.
And I
It
think
really
we're
is.
really lucky. I think that the employees that we have in this town are excellent.
Absolutely.
I think all of our department heads are wonderful. I think they're very dedicated. I think they're knowledgeable. So we have great department heads, we have great committees, we have a lot of people that can work together for the town to make it a
Yeah,
better
we
place.
do. And towns, I love this. Well, I have to tell you, and I know you do too. But it's a good town. When you look around at the problems some other towns have, and they do have some big problems, and we have big problems, but we can address them together, and you know, kind of get over that hill. And we've done it before, and we'll do it again. And I think, like you said about the wastewater thing, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow in this town, and to figure it out. And I have my own perceptions, and other people have their own perceptions, and that's fine. But everybody's got to sit down, like you said, at the table.
We have to sit down and
Yeah.
talk it out and make sure everyone's comfortable with it.
And
I
find
mean, if
common
we come
ground.
up- Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
That's the
it's
way to
really,
do it.
yeah, it's, this, you know, we haven't talked about the fact that you're running for public office, which is something, you know, this isn't about, but, you know, I was in public office. And I have been actually elected to the Board of Health for, I don't know, over 20 years. And I'm old and, you know, it's time for some new blood. But I still enjoy it, and I'm interested in it, and I'm interested in, you know, they've got 170 nutrient removal systems in this town. People don't even know it. And, you know, that's a big deal. That really is a big deal. It
It
keeps the harbors a lot cleaner. You know, I don't know why I do it, other than the fact that I really like the people in town, and I like the town. It's a cool place to live. I'd like to live in the mountains someday, but you know, I can't leave. I can't leave. It's crazy, but
So-
yeah. Okay. If have you had any calls? No, I haven't really haven't said too much about calls. If somebody wants to call in, if you've got a question for MJ, call in now. And if you call in with a question and we don't get it to her while we're still on the air, I'll get she'll get the answer to us, and we'll have it for the next show. You know, and this happens sometimes. We had a call 2 shows ago at the end of the show, and I didn't answer it, and it was and one of the questions was, where did I think my wastewater goes? Well, unfortunately, I happen to be on storage, so I know where it goes. It goes to Wareham. And you know, that was a good question. Other than that, and there were a couple other questions, but I don't want to dig into it too much because it's not about wastewater. It's about the town. And I want to thank you so much for coming in tonight.
Oh, it's great to be
You know.
here. And yes, I am running for the Board of Selectmen, and I do
Yeah.
hope that I get elected. I'd love to serve on the board. I think it would be a great.
Well, I truly think it's an important thing in the community that you know all the different department heads and you've worked with all of them and they all know you. And you know, that's an important thing. It's important to the town, and it's the way it used to be. Local business people who would run for office when they were full-time selectmen, they would have to work with all the different department heads. And a lot of times, you don't agree with everybody, but you have to work with them and find middle ground and get the stuff done. And that's what life is about. It really is. And it's hard to do it in a public scenario. And God bless you. You know, I'm proud of the fact that you're running, and I know it's going to be tough. I've been there, and it is. It's tough. And any other people that are running too, they, you know, I think you know a lot more about what you're getting yourself into than other people may. I really do. You know, and you know, you couldn't pay me enough money to do something like that. It's okay. I want to have to go. I want just again want to thank you for coming in, and
Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Thank you. It was great, and I guess we're off.